what I do could help people be more confident and how to be more with themselves, connected to their truth, and being able to speak their truth out. So there's the inner work and then the outer expression. Yes, I love potential. I love manifestation. I love seeing people come alive and break through. So isn't that weird? That I'm doing psychology with people and helping them with their fears, yet hiding my own.
Does speaking in front of an audience make your hands sweat or your heart beat out of your chest? Do you avoid it at all costs? Well, if that's the case, our special guest today is going to be able to help you with all of that. Dr. Doreen Downing is a psychologist and fearless speaking coach. She's an author, a speaker, and a podcast host. She's experienced as a deep listener, and she helps people go within, face their fears safely, embrace their wounded voice, and find the core essence of who they truly are so that they can become more fully present and speak up with calm confidence anytime. I'm so excited to introduce you to Dr. Doreen. Doreen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I loved it when you said calm. There was a way in which your voice even went to calm. Isn't that, like our brains and our bodies are connected?
They certainly are. They certainly are. Yeah, maybe the word that I was reading is calm, but I've also been told that I have a calm presence or a calm commanding presence on screen. So I don't know if that was part of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna I think we're gonna have a nice conversation today.
Good. Yes. Well, that's something that I've been attracted to you, the whole idea of being present, being really embodied a sense of calm. And so I think what you hear and what I hear are the same things. People say that just by being in my presence, there's a soothing feel. And that's what it takes to face fear, is what I believe. And I think it comes from, oh, how many years? 40 years of sitting in my office as a psychologist, and more recently, becoming a fearless speaking coach, so that that deep listening, at giving people permission to, find their voice.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. There's not enough people out there that listen deeply, like you're talking about.
Mhm. Yes. I would say that, since I know we're just gonna have a conversation here, so let's go. I was thinking that what you just said about listening, I think when we become listeners, and this is a message for anybody who's with us today, is that when you truly listen to somebody more deeply, you help them find their voice.
Mm,
Really?
well put. Yes. How many it strikes me when you say that, how many people don't get listened to and they keep their voice hidden and they keep it, down in their body and they just don't let it out. And it makes me sad, but then it also makes me happy that we're having this conversation so people can be lifted.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was in a group this last weekend, and it was a social kind of thing, and somebody talked about having gone, to a college, and then his last year, he changed majors or something like that, and everybody just went on. Everybody was just chatting, chatting, chatting. Later, I went up to him, and I said, "Well, so what was that about, that you went from, 3 years in a particular major, and then you shifted?" And then he went, "Oh my god, you were really listening." And then, it was like we had a whole new level of connection and conversation. It was like his voice, just like you said, and you had a gesture of kind of hold your hands went down, like, yeah, that your voice is down underneath, and you're not really being more truly yourself. And it just felt like we started a wonderful conversation, a connection, a deeper connection. And that's partly what I think is how how we live our lives. I know we're supposed to be talking about business, but, it's like your voice shows up everywhere, even on weekends at a social party where you can get the advantage of really truly connecting more authentically.
Absolutely. We all just need to be able to do that more. And
Yeah.
the conversations are what are gonna allow us to do that. Um, I There's something that I teach in some of my classes, and that's when you learn some of these techniques, it helps you professionally, but it also helps you personally. And it helps you up level your relationships and the connections that you have with the people that you love and you care about so much.
Absolutely. People have taken it sounds like, this training that you do is somewhat similar where we're helping people be more fully expressed no matter where. And I like to say, maybe you do too, that life is your stage.
Oh, I don't say that, but I really like that. Like,
Okay, you get to say it. I'll give it to you. I mean, it's from Shakespeare, so
I need to read more Shakespeare, but
yeah.
is your stage. I like that a lot.
Uh,
I'm really curious, what brought you to this work? You talked about being a psychologist and how that helped you ask questions. Tell me a little bit more about how you came to do this.
well, it's a great question. I could go at it from different directions, but what I'll say is and how it relates to my fear of speaking in public is that I've come to realize that I picked psychology partly because I'm a quieter kind of person and I love to listen, and getting more skillful at listening in a PhD program was more attractive to me than going on a route where I was developing my speaking voice, let's say. And that's what I did for years. But you know what? I think I think I hid the fear that I had about speaking up in public by picking a profession where the attention wasn't on me. It was always on the person that I'm working with, and it was only one person at a time. So, put me in a group even with other psychologists talking about our cases, let's say, and as soon as the circle, maybe 6 people are meeting and it gets halfway around the circle to be my turn, my heart starts to beat rapidly, my throat tightens, and my head starts to pound. And so I knew I had stage fright, even in small groups. So, of course, I avoided any kind of public speaking situation where I'd be the center of attention and, in the spotlight. So, isn't that weird that I'm doing psychology with people and helping them with their fears, yet hiding my own? And that's kind of more the underlying story of why I picked psychology, other than I love potential. I love manifestation. I love seeing people come alive and break through. And here I am kind of trapped, right? So that's the backstory of why, but I can go one step deeper if you wanna go
Absolutely.
there. My mother was bipolar,
Oh,
and, we lived with my grandma for a while, and she had a garden, and there was just, like, beautiful flowers, color out there. And inside the house was my mom who was depressed. So it was dark inside, it was bright outside. So I feel like as a psychologist, I know both, I know what's possible, but I also know the pain. And I'm able to sit with pain and where people are, let's say, some of the root causes of their pain, because I know that.
mm, that's beautiful. Those You know where they're coming from. You've been there. I'm sorry that that was your experience early on in life. It
Mhm.
definitely brought you to a place where you were able to turn that into something that helped other people. Could it be because there wasn't anyone that helped you in that way?
I was, the oldest of two girls. I'm the older sister, and you're right. There really wasn't anyone. So yeah, super independent. I might say that's a third reason why I went into being an entrepreneur is I knew how to make things happen and I knew how to get things done and I knew how to figure things out and nobody I hadn't really had people bossing me around. I was kind of the boss in my family. So I had a lot of confidence, I think, in terms of taking charge and that's what we do as entrepreneurs is we have certain kind of skills we've gotta call on, which is, we know how to figure things out, solve problems, and, make a business.
Yes, definitely. What brought you then to helping people find their voice in public speaking and situations like that?
Personal story, again, I one day, somebody did ask me to speak up in a conference and share my research, and I tried to get out of it, like I said, I avoided public speaking like the plague, and she kept pressing me. A doctor, because I already had been, licensed and I had my doctorate, and I finally just said, "I'm afraid of public speaking." I can't do it, and I just get too nervous, and I'm gonna choke up, and I'm not gonna be able to do it. And she was really not just surprised, but she was stunned, and her face just got like, "What the heck? Aren't you isn't this your business? Isn't fear your business?" is what she said. So it was kind of like a shocking moment. It was like, "Okay, I'm exposed." Yeah, luckily, I wasn't on a stage losing it, you know? Where that's my learning breakthrough moment is, "Oh, I found my voice when I collapsed or failed in front of a bunch of people." No, it was being confronted by this person who, thought she knew me and then realized, "Oh my gosh, she really suffering inside and something's wrong with her." And so that's when I got that if I'm working with people and I'm hiding, what business do I have doing this? And so that's when I took my first class on overcoming the fear of public speaking at a local community college.
Oh, wow. Did that
It's been a journey. It's been a long journey.
It sounds like it. I can resonate with some of what you're saying. I was the one that was thrown out there in a situation where I either had to sink or swim. I wasn't scared per se of public speaking, but I was after that because I sunk mid
Um,
9 hour or no, I think it was 8 hours where I had to speak by myself and do this entire training that I was supposed to do with someone else. And so,
yeah.
I was just I had to do it. I had to show up, and there were some people that were not impressed with what I did and let me know about it. And so I knew from that moment that I was gonna have to fix a few things to be able to be in front of people. And that started my journey of being nervous to be in front of a bunch of people, which is interesting.
Well, that exposure, that you are totally exposed and there are and this is what we're starting to move more into with fear about exposing yourself. And it sounds like, yeah, there's a reality if you didn't have a certain kind of skills or the presence or the confidence that people will judge. Yeah. I mean, they're afraid of being judged, but there's truth out there that you will be judged. However, it feels like sometimes the judge is stronger inside of us.
Yeah. Most definitely. We take it to that next level.
Yes, especially when uh, we call it anticipatory anxiety. You're anticipating the future and you're rehearsing it and you're seeing yourself fail. Hello. That's one of the techniques is right? The rehearsal, the mental rehearsal, and have it be as positive as you can help yourself feel right in this now present moment and
Yeah.
projecting that into the future.
Yes, definitely. That is a great technique. I definitely wanna come back to that because I do wanna talk about a few techniques that you're willing to share on the in the conversation. I also want to know how that speech went when you took the class and then you went to speak in front of all of those people.
Well, actually, I didn't.
Oh, you
It
didn't?
No, one class did not do it for me. I went back to that teacher again, and I started taking Toastmasters, which helped me learn lots of techniques, but it also helped me hide more. I got better at hiding.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, what you just said about the exposure, that in a way, it felt like I learned how to do vocal variety and, I guess you call them performance techniques, and that helped me get out in public and do speaking engagements, but I felt like my heart, my soul, my more tender self couldn't take the risk of being out there, and so that's why I found a coach who helped me do the inner work to go back towards, well, and to go back to why I was still so afraid inside. It wasn't stopping me anymore, but that's when I learned that story I told you about my grandma. It was a deeper issue still yet to be, touched and so that the bright, natural spirit that I feel like I am is well, we talk about shining the light, and I feel like my light is more, I don't know, deeper, brighter, and I'm not trying to be a performer. And behind that, taking that big breath to connect with my heart right now with you and seeing you smile. And that's one of the techniques too, is really speak with one person at a time. Mm. And especially if that's one of your strengths, and I think it's one of your strengths, you know?
I love connecting with people and finding out what makes them tick, and, um, I also like to support people and help them grow and feel comfortable in their time with me. Anytime that I spend, I want them to feel comfortable, and, yeah. So thank you. Thank you. That was a kind compliment. So now you are helping others in this situation. Tell me a little bit about what it looks like to work with you.
Mm. Okay. First of all, people find me and appreciate that I do have psychology as a whole background. I'm not just a coach, but that I also now have designed a stage fright solution. And that's more about how to get out. So there's the inner work that they seem to think that there's something about their history that has them be so scared. They know something. And so they appreciate that I know how to do the deep dive, the deep dive. So yes. So they like the fact that I can safely guide them into and through fear, facing fear. And then the finding the essence, the core essence would be the second part of the work is, well, so who are you really? Kind of like what I said a few minutes ago about having performance techniques and skillful at that, but still feeling like I couldn't fully come out. So, well, if you fully came out, who is that? How do we and that's potential, right? So we're doing even a deeper dive into natural, who you naturally are and what's your core strengths, what you came into this world with, what's yet to be developed. You know when I think about you on that stage where you're kind of flailing, but also you're doing it. So there's some strength in there, so that finding that strength is important. And then third are the specifics that I write about in my book, The 7 Secrets to Speaking from the Essence of Who You Truly Are.
Mm. I can't wait to read that book. Definitely. I think that's gonna be a great book. I like those 3 steps. Do you ever find that when you're talking about this with any of your clients that they're afraid to go into the fear piece?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I just had a session yesterday with somebody, and at the end, he goes, "Do you" it was, he got to stuff and he got his emotions out, and there's a lot of release and emotional discharging, but at the end, he said, "Do you believe that, all this is about something that happened to me in the past?" I was kinda put on the spot, and it was, like we had 1 minute left, and I couldn't say yes, I couldn't say no. I had to, say that I think that we come into this world with potential, and either it's tapped into early in life, even for those of us who are more introverted, we can feel like people listen to us, welcome us into, and that we do have a voice. And that's all the kind of parenting we get early on. And that's where confidence starts, I believe. So, yeah, I think that both what we talk about nurture and nature and nurture, that what you come in with, and then, the influences that shape you into the person you are.
Yeah, that's great. I'm thinking as you're speaking that way, I'm thinking about all of the experiences that I've had or what made me fearful of bringing my voice out. And,
Oh.
um, there were so many things, but I also was, the oldest, so I felt like I could figure everything out. We have that in common as well, and it makes me think that I didn't feel like I could always use my voice in my family. That not that I was silenced per se, because I don't think that really happened. It was more like whatever I had to say wasn't as accepted as or not accepted, what's the word I'm looking for? It's more like it wasn't drawn out of me.
Uh-huh. That's what we were talking about in the very beginning, the kinda listening
Yeah.
that draws out the voice. Yeah.
Mhm. And so I guess some of that has gone, with me throughout my life and not feeling like, well, what I have to say is very important. And it's kind of led to imposter syndrome and
Mhm.
all of those things that I like to teach about in my programs. And um, I, I'm thinking of the parallels that we have here that you aren't speaking specifically of imposter syndrome, but you help people through that without speaking of it directly. And I think
You've really pinpointed something there for me. Absolutely. Because in my story, right, it does feel like, "Oh, Doreen's an imposter. She's a doctor at doing this work and with people," but I never felt like an imposter because I was so good at what I did already and working individually with people, I felt like there was a lot of success in people, uh I wasn't working specifically around finding voice, but in developing who they are meant to be and, uh, learning how to face life and to make something better happen for themselves. I felt very success still do. I mean, I feel very successful at the way I am with people. So you just pointed to, well, so what is imposter then? If I was hiding something and knowing I was hiding, isn't that imposter?
it is. Imposter syndrome at the essence is feeling like you're a fraud. And when
Okay, that's it then. I didn't feel like a fraud.
you didn't feel like a fraud.
Not at all.
So when you were taking your classes,
Yes.
um, you were doing a great job at masking who you were individually. Did that
Yes.
thrive because you weren't
No, because I got really good at at performing and leading workshops and everything. This is really, truly I look forward to more conversations about this with you since it's a specialty of yours. And, maybe there's just something about that phrase is used in so many ways nowadays, and people are kinda using it in
all the time?
a way to because it's a popular things get popular, and I've been in the business for 40 years, so it's there have been other times other things have been, why is imposter now coming out? But it's good.
It is good. I think imposter is coming out now more, for people who are maybe, like, the middle of the millennials.
Ah,
We feel like imposter because we're watching the younger generation come up, and we have intentionally, as parents and grandparents, put into them that they are already enough, and they have their voice is important, and we wanna hear their voice. And so we have a whole new generation of people coming into the workforce now that are a lot more confident than we were when we entered the workforce. And so I think some of that is bubbling to the surface right now. I don't know
fabulous. I love the explanation. That's a whole you just shed light on, for the people who are listening today. I think you pointed to a really good explanation of why now, why this is, currently so popular to work on and have, answers to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm fascinated. I know this isn't the forum, and we can go into this more at another time when we're together, but I'm fascinated that it wasn't imposter syndrome for you, and you clearly had this vast experience of doing amazing things with the clients that you were working for. Um, Now that you're helping people in a different way find their voice and be able to speak up in front of audiences, what what do you help them find within themselves to show their light? Or how do you go about that process?
Oh, beautiful. Well, first, it would be in the master class I'll be doing this week, I do start with the first step, which is, learning how to face fear, because most people wanna get rid of it, and my philosophy is that we need to, turn around and understand it, approach it with kindness and gentleness, and not come at it with a hammer and try and get it out of us. But I do know that that's the fright is so terrifying to experience that you don't wanna get anywhere near it. So how do I help people is first just this kind of and I know this is a new kind of popular concept, mindset. Yes. But it's been around for a long time called something else, but still it is about, the way we think about something is the way things are experienced, right? So, it's kind of a simple process in helping people see that fear I first we have to work on the fear of fear. So that would be what we're talking about. And then, "Oh, okay, so it's my fear, my little one inside that's, shaking in her boots. Okay, let me go let me go reach her, talk to her, have a relationship with her, and help." You are your own person that can come to the rescue to the part that you left behind or abandoned or exiled, sometimes we say.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be first, and then your question, "Well, then how?" Okay, so somebody's no longer afraid of their fear. They understand more, they have more insight, and then there's some healing techniques if it's been something like trauma, like pain around, divorce. Sometimes that's they feel I don't know. There's just lots of kinds of traumas that happen to us as kids, and then we do some healing techniques around trauma, inner child work, and then, to me, it feels like once we've kind of cleaned up the space in there, then then we find, okay, well, what are your strengths? Your true strengths. And then we get excited about the essence of who you are. And you can go as deep as spiritual or divine or you could just say your character. So it depends on how open or how how what people believe, what their belief system is. I've worked with somebody right now who's very religious and has really found a lot of strength from the Bible for himself. And he does daily readings in the Bible so that he feels he can approach his day with whatever comes up he needs his voice and that's what his purpose is. So that's fantastic. And then there's the third, which we had kind of talked about all three. The third is, well, so then how do you take tiny steps that make you feel like, I'm speaking up? Like maybe get on a podcast or, consciously choose places where you feel like you're stretching just a little bit, and then that stretch is no longer a stretch because you've done it and you've got that, you've gained confidence there.
That's fantastic. I can see how each one of those steps helps bring you along. Do you have any stories about any of your clients, of a before and after that you can share with us?
Yeah. In doing This is somebody who was the VP of sales of all things, and on Friday morning, he had to give his report at, noon or at 1 o'clock, early in the afternoon on Friday, and all morning he was sweating, and he would be typing his report, and then he'd go at 1 o'clock and read it. And he knew that that was not effective, but he was still doing a good enough job, I guess, but he just couldn't stand any more being suffering like he did every Friday morning. It was he found my work because he realized it was something deeper. It wasn't he didn't need just techniques. He needed to do some inner exploration. And in that first part of the program that I lead, finding, where the root is, he remembered, and I know it feels like it's just one scene, but it's kind of representative of a lot of things and a lot of stories people have. He was in a class, a sex education class when he was, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, and he asked a question, and everybody laughed at him. And then they started teasing him, in the hallways, and it just felt like he shrunk, and that kind of connection between his fear of getting in front of the sales team at 1 o'clock on Fridays, he made a link, two dots there. So then what we did in one of the healing techniques was to go back with compassion, like I said, let's go find where that was and take our hearts and say, well, what was really, and he goes, you know what? I was brave. I was the only one willing to ask that question. I was the one, and I was courageous. Ooh, my whole body is kind of shifting right now, remembering that where he actually, it was a transformational moment, even though it was way back in the past. He changed the memory. He changed the story of being somebody who was teased and shrunk up and scared to power. Mm. Isn't that something?
It is.
So I often have people describe or take some word that represents that element of who they are, the core. I talked about core strength, and he said, "I'm vibrant." That was one of his word. I don't give them their word, but it's just like there's a resonance when they find their word, which helps them show up anytime, anywhere. So that's what he reported back to me, is that every time before he speaks now, he reinforces the sense that I am vibrant.
It's fantastic. And I bet he doesn't read from his report anymore.
No, no. I have so many stories, but I just really would love to tell a bunch of stories, but that's it. And that's what that's what my podcast is about. People tell their stories.
Yes, you're for our audience, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit, but, you're gonna have to really listen to her podcast because she does a fantastic job of shining the light on the stories of the people that she interviews. So,
Mm.
uh, we'll definitely talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. Interestingly, not interestingly, but you did bring up someone who is the vice president of sales, and that is an important leadership position in any
Yes.
organization.
Yeah.
And as our podcast is titled, it's Next Level Leadership. And you
Yeah.
took him to you took him more than next level. You took him many, many levels above where he was. And I'm sure that his leadership now is so much more impactful in everything he does now that he's let that piece go and found his vibrancy.
Mhm. I'm gonna tell a real quick one. Is that
Absolutely.
okay? And it is with somebody who identified as an imposter, actually.
Okay.
And the root we found there, and I'll do it quickly, was at 12 years old, his father it's interesting, both these men had trauma at 11, 12. I didn't put that together before. But my point is his father died and his uncles came to him and said, "You're now the man of the family."
Well,
Now, you know, how is a 12-year-old boy taking on the responsibility for his sisters and his mother? Don't you think that he feels like an imposter already at 12?
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that um, for a certain number of years was very, very common.
Mhm.
They were told, and then you think, "Well, I'm still a kid. How do I stop that?"
Yeah.
And it probably manifested something. Well, clearly it did, or he wouldn't be working with you, but something something in the future that made him hold back. Hmm,
Mhm.
that would be
Yeah.
hurt.
Yeah, his was, there's gonna be a catastrophe, which
Mhm.
when parent dying is a catastrophe.
Most definitely. It's one of the most heart-wrenching things that we go through. Most definitely.
Yes.
So,
Ah, yes.
you have answered the question that, we had talked one of the things that we do before our podcast is, "What is that one thing you want me to ask during this conversation?" And yours was, "How do people have anxiety about speaking, become more confident to be leaders when they work with you?" And you've definitely answered that question. Uh,
That's true. You didn't ask it specifically, but we got around to it, didn't we?
absolutely, absolutely. And as leaders, we do have to show up. Or we do have to be confident because everybody underneath a leader, we all look up to leaders and think they've got it all together. They made it to leadership because clearly did something right, or they have everything together or whatever. And the truth is that's just not reality. And there's so many things that we have to work on as we get higher in our companies or our organizations, but we can also be leaders at any level. And we also have the same fears and anxieties. It just becomes a little bit more stressful as you climb the ladder because you have so much more responsibility under you. Um, so when you heard about this podcast, what did next level leadership mean to you, or what came up for you when you read about it or heard about it?
Yeah, well, first of all, you spending time with you and having listened to some of the interviews that you've done already and your how engaging you are and how what your purpose, passion is about helping people be more expressed. So that's what I would say is that next level leadership is about being able to express not only who you are, but there's a I used the word a few minutes ago about a resonance, and I feel like you resonate what you're all about. I feel like that's what I wanna do is help people come from a deeper sense of who they are, their strength from within, as opposed to putting more layers and more skill around, their leadership, but that their leadership feels way more authentic because it rings, it resonates within their gut, and they that then to me is kind of, the feeling of what reaches the listeners and the followers, and um, so that what attracted me to next level leadership is what I do could help people be more confident and how to be more with themselves, connected to their truth, and being able to speak their truth out. So there's the inner work and then the outer expression. Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Uh,
I I I hope that the listeners that are watching this take the opportunity, because we're going to talk about it in a second, take the opportunity to learn more about Doreen and find the opportunities to work with her, because when you're able to tap into that essence of who you are, and like she said, the authenticity, that is what makes you magnetic. I talk about being magnetic a lot. If you have authenticity and you know who you are and you can tap into that piece, people want to be around you or at least learn more about you. And it's a beautiful thing when you're able to find that, because it sets you free. And I really see, Doreen, you as a person who helps set people free.
oh, I love that phrase. Yeah. I would say that that's true. And here we go again. I love the idea that you know the word and what it feels like to be magnetic. And I do have I have a Your Guide to Magnetic Speaking, which is about what it takes to be magnetic, and it has a lot to do with presence, awareness, and connection and authenticity. Yes.
How
Uh, you and I need to just go dancing together. It feels like that's what we're doing. We're listening to the same music and getting to be in play in the same play yard here.
It's so fantastic to meet somebody that you resonate with like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wish that for all of our audience, that you all have someone that you can meet like this. Just it's not out of the blue. We're in a program together, but we just haven't known each other that well. And so having this opportunity to connect and learn about each other and find out what our similarities are is really important. And that helps us, something that I like to say all the time, that helps us to raise each other up as women. And as most of you know, I really do have a passion around helping women rise up and have us support each other in ways that maybe we're not used to having women support us. And so together we rise, and together we can bring those voices out and our authenticity out and really take on the world and be bold. And I love that you have that. It while it is different from the angle that I come out, that you have that and you can bring that forth in people. And yeah, it's just fantastic to have this dance.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Dancing in the moment.
Yes. So you mentioned um you have something that helps people become a more magnetic speaker. How do they find that?
Well, let's see. On my website, DoreenDowning.com is a good place to go to get anything. I have my YouTube channel there. I have the freebies there. I also have a master class coming up. I don't know when this gets
This will
when
probably show up next Wednesday, so it'll be a little late for the master class, but I know that you have several of them.
yes, and I'll be doing a 3-day training. It's also a free experience to get to know me and see if they wanna work more in depth with me and go all the way in my Find Your Voice training program, which I'm gonna start in fall, in September.
Tell us a little bit more about the Find Your Voice training. Are you ready to release?
Oh, sure, yes, no, I've been doing that. It's an ongoing program that I've done for years, and it's a 12-week just what I talked about today. It's first the deep dive into the root, then it's about learning about the essence, the core essence of who you are, and then it's the third, the 7 secrets I talk about in my book, which has starts with be it's all about being, it's not about speaking, and the first one is be still, which you have to learn how to do. Be present is number 2, and then, well, somebody could get the magnetic guide to hear all the rest of uh, the secrets that I talk about in terms of how to be present, connected, mindful, and engaged.
Mm, this is fantastic. I can just well, first of all, I wanna know what is the title of your book again so we can make sure that we say it a few times and also get it in the show notes.
It's the 7 secrets to essential speaking. Find your voice, change your life. And the essential speaking, of course, is what we've been talking about today, the core magnificence that's within. And so many people don't believe that there's magnificence within. But that's our work, right? Is to help them believe.
That there is magnificence within. This is a perfect segue because I was just thinking my next question for you is there's what if there is somebody that's listening right now that is just they listened because they are terrified and they're just kind of like, well, maybe there is something. Maybe there is something within me that I can bring forth whenever I need to speak. What would you say to that person right now?
Well, I would say find your way to you or to me. 'Cause we know how to support that because you do need support, but hopefully there's something that they heard today that excites or ignites some courage inside, and I guess where I would bring them to is this idea that I heard about from Michelangelo that I always share in my trainings, and that's, he looked at this stone, right? So here we are feeling like stone, we don't have anything but at our core, but Michelangelo saw the angel in the marble. And I heard that in my first, class on overcoming the fear of speaking, and that's what inspired me to keep on the path to find, who is this angel inside of me? What is her voice truly? And so that's what I would hope that that story might inspire that person who's wondering, do they really have it inside to be able to feel the strength to step out?
That's so beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Is there anything else that you want to share that we haven't touched on that you were hoping to share? Or do you have any questions of me?
I don't have questions, and I feel like we've actually ventured all through a lot. Usually my conversations are about 30 minutes with somebody, and this I'm surprised that we have been able to tap into so much. This is really a fabulous moment for people if they can listen to you, because it wasn't just me speaking, you shared some wonderful things too. So together, I feel like we've, offered our best selves.
We sure have. And it's fantastic that we can go all around. Sometimes these go longer, sometimes they go shorter. It just really depends on the conversation. But there were so many nuggets. There were so many beautiful pieces that showed up within this conversation that um, it just, uh, we could go forever and then cut out the little pieces that aren't important in the end. But uh,
Yeah.
it really has been a beautiful journey. And I'm sure that our listeners are really feeling like there is more potential in them that maybe they did when they first jumped on this podcast or this YouTube channel. And I think I can speak for Dr. Doreen. You do have something beautiful in you. And wherever you find your help, wherever you find the person to help bring that out in you, I just want you to do it because it doesn't matter if it's me or Doreen. Whoever resonates best with you is really what we want you to do. But we're both here for you if you need us.
Yeah.
Thank you
Great.
so much. Thank you so much, Doreen.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that is another episode of Next Level Leadership. I'm so glad that you all joined us. All of the information that we talked about today will be in the show notes. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Next Level Leadership.